Talk about, oh, okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, I didn't really come here to make a complaint or anything, but just to hear what the other people were saying mostly. But since you called me, I'll ask this. One of the half dozen or so, more or less, crises you're going to be busy this month when you get back here. One of them is the debt, the debt you mentioned, and as I understand it, over the many years that this has passed, it's been pretty much a pro forma thing, for the most part. That everyone knew it was going to be passed. They let a few congressmen and senators would make dissenting votes just to make a point here and there, but it basically was going along. Now, the last time it came up, there was a glitch. Some people took their protest really seriously. And I guess my question is, are you Boehmerites going to be able to control that part of your caucus this time in order to get this done without lowering our credit rating any further than it already is?
I think if there is an agreement with the administration, something that was of substance, then yes, it can be, any kind of confrontation at that point can be averted. Okay, if we try and on a partisan basis jam it through, then I don't know if you can. Then we have some folks there who will find a way to vote no on anything. I don't care. You give them everything they want.
It's the so-called pass-through rule going to remain in effect for your caucus. Can you tell me that?
I think as a general rule, it will. Technically, there is no real has-to rule.
Right,
There's
right.
never been a conference resolution.
Not a rule board or anything, no, I understand that.
But I think any kind of an agreement you'd have with, certainly with the administration, the House, the Senate, it's going to have broad bipartisan support. So
Another thing is,
I'm an eternal optimist.
Pollyanna?
another thing that's gonna come up is your Obamacare. Okay, a lot of people I hear don't want this Obamacare passed. Because it's not for,
Well, it's already the law of the land.
it's already the law of the land. But there's ways of getting rid of it. If you impeach Obama, if you arrest Obama, or if you defund Obamacare. The way I see it, Obama is susceptible to 10 impeachment charges right offhand. One is bypassing Congress to pass this Obamacare. Okay,
No, Congress passed it.
Congress passed it.
It
Now,
was,
how come I read
it
it?
was all, I mean, it was there was not one Republican vote in the Senate or
Right.
House for it, but it was a party line.
There was a party line. Nobody read it, but
Actually,
we
the
passed it.
bipartisan vote was against it because there were a lot of Democrats, several Democrats that voted against it. But yeah.
Well, I just feel that the minute it starts to take real good effect, everybody's taxes are gonna go up to pay for that Obamacare.
Well, in the bill originally, there's about $1.2 trillion of increases in taxes and penalties.
Yeah, you take that 155 million people that are working in the workforce, and you're gonna tax them some more? You're you're getting blood out of a turnip.
Well, wait till you get to Social Security. The younger ones are gonna have to pay 50% of their paycheck for Social Security. That continues on in 2050.
More debt on our
I just
kids.
figured it,
It's figured out.
20% of my paycheck's going to fund.
It'll be 50. And
Yeah.
it'll be 50%.
I mean, it's sad, but I feel like that's probably a lot.
And that's why we need to do something now. You can do comparatively what appear to be small things today that actuarially have a huge impact on the road. And if you could do, and that's why in any kind of reform, Social Security or Medicare or something like that, it has to be on a bipartisan basis. And again, that's probably the biggest problem with the healthcare bill, is it was totally partisan. And with the understanding, when they passed it on Christmas Eve in the Senate, on a bipartisan basis in the House, everybody looked at it and said, this is just unworkable with the Cornhusker kickback and the Louisiana purchase and the special deal for Florida in that. you know, it's not workable. So the idea was to, quote, fix it in the House. And then when Scott Brown got elected in Massachusetts, they didn't have 60 votes in the Senate anymore. So they knew if they changed it in the House, they couldn't get it back to the Senate again. So they had to pass it as it was in the House, knowing that it was unworkable.
Okay,
Without change.
So, my insurance premiums are gonna go up.
Did that make any sense at all? No, it's just procedurally, they have to have 60 votes to proceed in the Senate. When Scott Brown won in Massachusetts,
They got their
they
60.
didn't know, they lost their 60. So they had to pass it as it was, without change, then it could go to the president directly for signature.
Now, was this you know, Massachusetts also was the first state that started penalizing through tax return, or taxes, for not having insurance, which was like, you know, $400, I think, give $300 or $400 penalized if you didn't carry insurance at the end. Okay, now that was a state thing. And so now, with this Obamacare, they're making it mandatory. Can they make that a federal thing? Isn't that a?
Oh, it
It
is.
already is.
But I mean,
It is
Massachusetts-
to be-
Federal law.
To be enforced by the IRS,
Yeah.
as far as the
Yeah.
tax.
What a joke of that.
I mean, to make you get insurance. Not the
The penalty
penalty,
would
not the
be-
penalty, but
Well, yeah,
that too,
the IRS is enforcing.
that we get the insurance. Because there's
They
that
will,
penalty.
yeah, that's where they verify whether or not you have purchased health insurance.
So what do you gotta
And
do?
If you
Take
don't,
your-
you're penalized.
But it's cheaper to be penalized than to get health insurance. Is that why the Obamacare, it's like, where's the
But they're not,
reasoning to,
I don't know if you
Going
saw,
on
they're
this.
not,
I don't know.
they're not, the first year, they're not gonna check anybody. They're not gonna enforce the penalty the first year.
Yeah, isn't that like January 1st when they're gonna start enforcing that?
For individuals, but they're not gonna verify whether or
That's
not
you.
you purchased it or not the first year. So it's an honor system right now, okay? For the individual mandate, the employer mandate was put off for a year, the individual mandate still stays in effect. Although we passed a bill in the House to delay that also.
Well, the president.
But the administration says they're not gonna check anybody.
No.
The president sees an honor system too, and look how that's working.
I wanna touch on one other point real quick.
Okay.
With the president just kinda doing whatever he wants with gun control, I mean, what are we looking at? Is that gonna happen, or does he have, I mean, surely he's
No,
gotta.
I mean, the gun
How can
control.
he do that?
See, he's talking about some new regulation, but I don't know
Yeah.
that it affects anything more than what's currently in law. As far as they said, like machine guns, well, you can't have machine guns now.
Yeah.
But no, they had an attempt in the Senate for gun control, and it failed.
Right.
So, no, there won't be any changes.
Well, I mean, it kinda sounded like to me he's talking about redefining the machine gun, which could be trouble, because, well, I mean, anything, they say an AR-15 looks like a machine gun, but
But
It's
not.
semi-automatic.
yeah, it's just a
Right.
semi-automatic rifle,
Right.
and it's an extremely effective 109-volt target rifle. It's a cheap round, or at least it used to be before this whole mess. But, you know, ton of sportsmen have them.
Getting to that gun control thing, I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago. You've heard of history repeating itself. Back in the 1800s, settlers and frontiersmen moved across the west to inhabit the United States today. The settlers and the frontiersmen ran across problems with the American Native Indian. So they put them on reservations. The federal army come along and put them on reservations, gave them food subsidies, gave them housing, and then they took away their guns. So today you have 155, 157 million people on unemployment or that are unemployment, food stamps, welfare, you name it.
Well, you can even make that more prevalent. When Katrina, the Army and the National Guard forced themselves in to
And
these
confiscated
houses. And
weapons.
see, what they're doing is, once they do it and we give in and we give it, then the Second Amendment is no more void, or is void and not valid, because we've given it up in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see,
It's there, but yet if they've taken.
you know, see, well, you got refugees,
I would
that
like
say
to
they're
see-
refugees, coming from the Middle East. You have illegal immigrants pushing up from the south, making way for the new colonists, making way for the new frontiersmen, making way for the new settler. Now the federal government has to take away your guns. And taking away your guns away from 320 million Americans is not an easy task.
Well,
We'll never
So
have
you
it.
gotta ban them,
I'll look
you gotta buy up all the ammo,
I'll look at it. I know what you're saying.
you gotta buy up all the ammo, you
I would
gotta,
like to see Iowa pass a suppressor law that you could have them. I mean, as many target ranges and stuff that are going up. There's a ton of states that have it. I don't understand what the big deal is. If you ever hear a gun suppressed, it doesn't sound like, I mean, it sounds like, it takes the crack out, but you can definitely tell it's still a gun going off. I mean, it's just so that if I'm shooting my gun behind my place, people over the hill 3 miles away can't hear me shooting, you know? I think that's just common courtesy.
Can I-
There's,
Okay, I was just gonna change the subject.
go ahead.
Just kind of like, it's just real quick. Well, you know, I was thinking of, on the subject of actually what the state and federal can do, Obama and the union. He's trying to push the union for everybody to be unionized, like, you know, the labor union. He can't do that, can he? Isn't that, but why is he, I mean, he's just trying it?
Well,
I mean, it's his-
there are, Iowa's a right to work state, so you can't force union
It's a
membership.
state thing.
It's more of a state issue, yeah.
Then why is he, what is he, his, well, I mean, in other words, is he trying
No,
to get that?
you can't
Isn't that socialism?
force people to.
I think he is. I think he's
Well-
socialist.
Yes, sir.
Is there any possible change towards Obamacare? Right now, it's affecting a lot of kids that are coming out of school and are only able to work a maximum of 30 hours a week, which won't, you know, they don't get paid much, but 30 hours won't get it.
It's like less than 30.
Yeah, less than 30.
Right.
Yeah, so is there any way that they're working on anything like that? Because that's really going to hurt us.
I mean, there are bills filed to have the full-time be 40 hours rather than 30. There's some resistance to that, say, well, that was part of the health care bill. If that's one of the bad consequences, that's also, you know, let it continue. Some folks say that. No, it's causing a lot of employers, I mean, two things. It's just keeping under 50 employees so they're not subject to it. And the second one is having a lot more part-time people. You know, if you're gonna have, you know, 2 part-time jobs, one at Burger King, the other one at McDonald's, with 28 hours each, basically, is what's gonna happen.
That's,
No, and it's, you know, that's, you know, if you're part-time, it's normally the lower paying position,
Yes.
obviously, also. So you're getting fewer hours and lower pay.
and no benefits or
And it's
anything else.
locked in there. People aren't, they're not gonna get over that number.
And one
So it's a
conversation,
huge
I had heard
cost.
that some of the unions are fighting it now,
Yeah,
which is good. I mean, usually they're fighting the
No,
other
there's-
way against us, but
huge pushback with the.
Yeah.
40,000 longshore.
AFL-CIO, all of them have, the major unions have written, the commercial workers union, that's an area, you know, all the hotel people and are the ones that are really gonna get hammered.
Aren't the DHS and the NSA and the GSA and all these other GS whatever A's, Aren't they all unionized and under the AFL-CIO? Or do they have their
usually it's
separate-
AFSCME would be their union, but if you're a federal employee, not a member of Congress or our staff, you are exempt. So
Yep.
anyone in the executive branch is exempt from the healthcare code.
So I want to be exempt. I want to be exempt. If they're going to be exempt, I want to be exempt. Because I ain't paying for no illegal immigrant to go to the doctor and say, hey, I want to, you know what? It's like the rate for a doctor right now, I think, is like one doctor for every 8 or 9 people. Okay? So the minute you legalize 11, 12 million illegal immigrants, that number is going to go up to 14, 16 people per doctor, and your care is going to go down, but your health insurance is going to go up.
Well, they're already, I don't care who it is, what your status is, if you go to the emergency room now, and that hospital takes any kind of public money, they have to take care of the individual.
Yeah.
So,
It's not just that, it's even the seniors now, that there's so many doctors that are getting out of the senior social, that they're paid by Social Security.
Yeah,
And
or
they're dropping-
Medicare.
Right, or Medicare, and they're dropping that, and so, but yet on the other hand, those that, I know what you're talking about, the little illegal immigrants, but yet on the compassionate side, you know, even.
Done with compassion.
Well, I mean, even us, I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about, you know, they're benefiting from what we would also benefit from. I'm not promoting it, but I mean, we have families that are below poverty line, that don't have the,
Yeah.
you know, and it's, so, the, I did like what, well, it's okay, never mind, 'cause it's kind of past history, but,
with the fully enacted, the healthcare plan, there'll still be 30 million American people in the US without insurance.
so
Quite
they need
enough.
So
something,
have
they
we-
need something. I mean, what I'm saying,
This is after it's all done, fully implemented, there'll still be 30 million people without insurance.
And those $30 million per 30 million people have to pay the penalty or the fine for not having insurance?
They
but,
should,
but yet, if something happens
but
to
they're
one
not
of them,
enforcing that either.
Yeah, how can they pay the fine if they can't afford the insurance, is what I,
it's cheaper than the insurance.
yeah, true.
And they're taking it out of what you would have got returned back.
Instead, they're gonna tax your social security or your Medicaid more to pay for that.
Yes.
Question about, I think we have a really good success story in Iowa, which I'd love to have you spread in Washington, and that is our wind energy program. After Mid-American puts in its 615 turbines, 40% of our electricity will come from wind. I think that's a really great success
For
story.
Mid-American.
From Mid-American,
Right.
yes, right.
Right.
It's currently about 25%, so we're gonna go to 40%.
How many birds are you gonna kill with that?
Oh,
So-
I did a study
So
on that.
I
There's one.
think, you know, it can be done. You know, first of all, people say, you know, it's a fad, alternative energy is a fad. It's not a fad here in Iowa, and consumer rates are gonna go down according to Mid-American because of wind. That seems like a success story you can talk about in Washington to other states.
And not every, Iowa's almost ideal for wind, just because
It's constantly low.
Minnesota blows or
Right.
whatever, I'm not sure.
Missouri sucks.
But, no, in our, what we have to focus on is actually getting a grid in place that, because especially off peak hours, we have a lot of surplus electricity generated that is just being wasted. And that really is what's critical to make it really successful. But yeah, I mean, you're huge expansion of the wind, and there's, I think, over 250 companies in Iowa that are directly related to wind, and about 8,000 employees. Those are good jobs. I'll never forget up in, I helped Iowa Lakes Community College get a windmill up there so they could teach kids to be technicians to service them. And I climbed one like I couldn't hardly walk for about 4 days. My thighs were so sore from climbing that thing. But, you know, the first class they had 2 young men. It was a 2-year course. They did their first year, did internships in the summertime with wind companies. And they were each offered jobs after the internship, not completing the second one. One at $60,000, other at $70,000 a year as technicians. Now, I think it's a young man's business, or a young person's business, but,
Well, thank you for voting for the wind energy tax credit.
right.
And that's another example where Republicans and Democrats came together. I think the whole delegation in Iowa supported
and
that.
bipartisan.
Yeah, so
Sure.
that's something to brag about too.
Sure.
Well, and, you know, building infrastructure and building jobs for the future is so important to our being able to pay our bills.
Exactly.
You know, not only us here, but our government in the long run. And you do have to be careful, you know, how you spend that money, but those investments, you know, like you said, are long-term investments that create jobs
Right.
and create opportunities for people, and that's really what government should do.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
would, we, I don't know how much, about 1 minute, right? Anyway, no, but I've always thought we should, as far as energy revenues on federal land, take those royalties and dedicate it to infrastructure. I mean, over time, there are trillions of dollars that can be invested here. The Highway Trust Fund, and it's my subcommittee that funds that, about $41 billion a year to the states. Our revenues are $27 billion. I mean, that shortfall in that quote trust fund is going to be, before the end of the next fiscal year, will be totally depleted. We've got to find a way to fund infrastructure. Because we have more efficient vehicles, we have people driving fewer miles all the time, more efficient cars.
Does Iowa have any large infrastructure projects going or about to happen? Or?
Well, as someone who's on the road a lot, I think we have
Well,
plenty of work to do.
Right, I understand.
Google's working, they got that big old Google plant down there at Council Bluffs. That's slated for 31 buildings. The Google's slated for 31 buildings, but after it's all said and done, I heard that there's only gonna be like 17 employees in each of these buildings that we're building.
It's not real
No,
job.
it's not a big job generator.
Enormous investment, but as far as actual jobs,
Jobs.
it's not a big job.
No.
But,
It puts me to work every
but it's
once
a
in a
lot of
while.
jobs building the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, getting it put together.
That's just like the pipeline, that would put a lot of people to work,
Absolutely.
but after it's all said and done, those guys are sitting on their butt again.
Apparently we're out of time, right, Michelle? Anyway, again, Laura Hartman back here from our Creston office. She will be in the county every month, if in fact, it'll hopefully be picked up in the press, and
No, it
people
is.
will be notified that you're gonna be here, so. But if you have concerns or problems or something, please get in touch with us. Please stay in touch, that's extraordinarily important. We're a representational form of government, so I've got to hear from you folks to go back to. Thank you. Why am I not surprised?
Because I'm a little.
Speak up. Anyway, but thank you all very, very much for coming, appreciate it.
Thank you.